The debt ceiling is a limit on how much debt the US Treasury can borrow. If the debt ceiling has been reached, then the US Treasury can't issue any new bonds to secure loans for the US government. Once spending exceeds the money they have for payments, the US will fail to pay back its debts and risk defaulting on its loans, which has horrible consequences. Currently, the debt ceiling is roughly $31.4 trillion, so the US government needs more than $31.4 trillion to pay for their expenses. They don't have enough money, so they have to borrow the money. The catch is, America can't borrow more money until they raise the debt ceiling, which the US government can't easily do. While there is a debt ceiling in the US, some countries don't even have a debt ceiling. The US created the debt ceiling because they were fed up. In 1917, whenever the Treasury wanted to issue a bond, Congress had to authorize every bond issue. This was annoying, especially when World War I was ongoing and the US needed a lot of money it didn't have, so they had to issue lots and lots of bonds to pay for the war effort. You can imagine Congress having to vote for every single bond issue constantly. Congress just gave up and decided they would create a debt ceiling. As long as the debt ceiling wasn't reached, the Treasury could issue as many bonds as it wanted to. Hooray! Now Congress doesn't need to waste time voting for bond issues anymore. It's now 2023 and the government has needed to raise the debt ceiling over 20 times since 2001. Overall, since the debt ceiling was introduced, Congress had to raise the debt ceiling over 70 times since the debt ceiling's inception. We know it's a problem, but why is reaching the debt ceiling a problem? Can't the government just spend less money and borrow less? The debt ceiling is a problem that stops the government from spending more money. The reason why the US government needs to borrow more money is because government officials want to do a lot of things with their power. Politicians need money to launch initiatives, add social programs, and anything else they want to build or create.
Ron loves playing with the kids.
Build the wall. The deportation bus. That's right, you heard me. The Michael Williams deportation.
I support the Second Amendment.
So they need more money than they currently have. The US government even approved these expenditures before the debt ceiling was even reached. The US already has a lot of stuff it has to spend on, like the military paying the employees working in the government, the social programs like Medicare, Social Security, or pensions. So the government usually ends up needing more money to fund its operations because of their new expenses. To get enough money for existing government operations like social programs and new expenses, they need to get more money by borrowing money. This is done by issuing US Treasury bonds. The government can't do that when the debt ceiling has been reached. Taxes from US citizens are still coming in, but it's not enough to fund both the existing government operations and all the newfangled things that the current government decided it wants to do. If America can't raise the debt ceiling in time, then it has to find ways to repay the interest on those bond payments. The government may stop paying out money to Social Security, Medicare, and pensions. Soldiers and civil servants won't receive their salary at all, meaning Americans who rely on those services for money won't be able to get their money. The money Americans were supposed to get will be used to pay off the US Treasury bonds interest payments to investors instead. Basically, the US government will delay payments to American citizens to pay off their foreign investors' debt payment first. This is only one way the US government may choose to deal with the situation. Another way is to mint the $1 trillion coin. Based on US law made for coin collectibles, the Treasury Secretary can mint a platinum coin and give it any monetary value, even $1 trillion. The $1 trillion coin is a very gimmicky solution no one takes seriously. The Simpsons even made an episode to make fun of it.
Ooh, $1 trillion bill. That's a spicy meatball.
The government should just raise the debt ceiling like they're supposed to, otherwise they'd risk failing their bondholders. Now, the US government has never failed to meet its financial obligations before. It has never defaulted before. The debt ceiling is scary because if the US runs out of money and its extraordinary measures, it could default on its loans. If this happened, the US Treasury bonds would be downgraded. Based on how low the credit ratings drops to from America's current AA rating, America would have to pay more interest to investors in exchange for loans. It could end up costing the US tens of trillions of dollars over several years. What's worse is, if US Treasury bond interest rates go up, mortgage rates also go up. US citizens would have to pay more interest when they borrow money to get a house or a college loan. The interest rates for credit cards would skyrocket, saddling consumers with debt. Businesses which need loans to grow bigger will be impacted too. People would lose their jobs jobs and wage growth would slow, and the US economy would stagnate. America defaulting on its debt has never happened before, so no one knows just how catastrophic it could be for the US and the global economy. It could trigger a financial crisis or recession worse than the 2008 financial crisis. Now, you may be thinking, if the debt ceiling causes so many problems, then raise the debt ceiling already. What's the holdup? Politics. The US government can raise the debt ceiling as long as there are enough votes in Congress. The problem is, because not raising the debt ceiling would cause so many horrible problems for America for years to come, different parties in the US government have decided to weaponize their vote. It's kinda like one party in Congress will say, if you don't agree to add these new laws or do some things we want, then we won't vote to raise the debt ceiling. Now, the president or the opposing party may not want these new laws, but since they're being threatened, they have to sadly agree to some demands from the other side in Congress. It's blackmail is what it is. Debt ceilings have been hit across various presidents. It happened during Obama's presidency, it happened in the Trump era, and it happened during President Biden's current presidency. And every time it has happened, there's always a lot of news reports and people in the media harping about doomsday if the debt ceiling isn't raised. So far, the US has always managed to raise the debt ceiling before things got out of hand, so all this fuss about the debt ceiling is a nothing burger. There's no way the US government would fail to raise the debt ceiling, not when it has so many consequences. At least we would hope so. Thank you for watching, like and subscribe.